Hello, Narnach here. Welcome back to Path of Exile. We are playing in the Harbinger League, which usually has some Harbingers from time to time. Part of the Fall of Oriath expansion. And today we are walking through this rather gloomy area called the Ridge, on the way to the prison, which admittedly is not all that more cheerful. But well, we're doing it because we're gonna kill Shavronne of Umbra, whom in turn is probably not gonna be all too happy with that, but hey, it is for the greater good. We need her soul, feed it to our buddy Sin, and obviously with a name like Sin, everything he says can be trusted, of course, right? That's should all work out in the end. Fun bit is, of course, I have absolutely no idea how it is going to work out in the end. Because I've only played through until Act 8 in the beta. So I have no idea what Act 9 is gonna offer us. Or Act 10 for that matter. So for all I know, we might indeed get trained by Sin, or Sin might turn out to be the good guy that he claims to be. For now, he's helpful. Hello there, Harbinger. Ooh, Exalted Shard, Binding Shard, multiple Chaos Shards. So far, so good. Hello there, Fleet Freak. Oh. Seems very lightning-y. Also, I think somewhere, somehow, all my skeletons got killed because suddenly I started self-casting the Dark Pact accidentally. But he was on our list of things to kill. So that's good. That means next. Hey, and hello there, second Harbinger of the level. I think I'm gonna take a small step back here. Let the minions do the tanking. That's slightly more their thing. Got a Binding Shard, more Chaos Shards, an Ancient Shard. So slowly things are starting to stack up. I think Ancient Orbs had something to do with maps, so for the time being they're not all that relevant anyway. But they will be, eventually. And someone's up there. Fagan! Ah, that's why we couldn't find him. He was all the way over here.
You there. Let me bend your ear for a moment.
So, defeat Fagan. I think we should be capable of that. Just get some more skellies. Yeah, there we are. Goodbye, Fagan. Even his regeneration couldn't help.
Well now.
He's up to level 2, so that's good. He'll make an appearance in Act 3, which is a little bit back in time. But eventually our hideout is going to be large enough to accommodate him, and then it doesn't really matter what act he is gonna be standing around in, because he'll just be in our hideout anyway. It's all temporary issues where you can find masters. Okay, bone offering is still auto cast. Okay, lots of wheels on pikes. And there we are at the lower prison. Okay, and in the prison, once again, we have to do a trial for the labyrinth. It's gonna be one of 3 trials we have to do before we can do a cruel one. Oh, and there's a new enemy type and those are the big spinning cage type enemies. Question is, what are we gonna see first? Some sort of exit or the trial? Oh, elemental reflect. Look at me not caring about reflect. It's one of the many blessings of playing chaos. Reflect does not exist. Oh, but you can act as if it doesn't exist. There's no chaos resist. Or there's no chaos reflect. So I must say these Rattling Condemned, if you're playing with a chaos caster, they appear to be much less sturdy than if you're playing a damage over time melee build. Because they took quite a while to take down in the beta. But relatively to the regular mobs, they do have a lot more health. And their damage output is not that impressive to compensate. Also, I just over leveled the bone offering, so there's that. And let's see. Yes, heart and soul. More life as well as a little bit more mana. So there's a exit there into Shavronne's tower, so that means we'll backtrack a little bit in order to do the trial. Dark Pact gaining another level, that's also lovely. In every level that Dark Pact gains means the built-in damage is just going to be even higher than it already was. As the percentage of my life that gets used always remains constant, that's always going to remain 6%. Oh, there's a rare there, let's focus our attentions on that one. So while I was distracted by the rare, I kind of got mauled into by the spinning cage. But Life Leech once again just helped me to stay alive a little bit. And the further we get, the more life the more damage we do, the more life we leech, the stronger the effect is gonna be that the Life Leech will have to keep me alive. I mean, there is a natural upper limit of 20% of my maximum life getting leeched per second. That limit is just gonna be there. But of course, the larger the life pool will be, the bigger the actual amount of life leeched will be. And there is the book I have been looking for. Book often denoting the entrance into the labyrinth. So which of the trials was this again? Spikes, yay. Okay, let's just follow the path. And this is one again that just simply switches. And way forward was not what we had to do. Yeah, not self. Don't just blindly walk through. Really not a good strategy. Yes. Made it through. Just conjure my army. Well, what's remaining? I only got 2 zombies out of 7. Good thing is there were some fresh corpses here to persuade to join my side. And we can teleport up here, that also works wonders. Once again, the upside of having a movement skill means you don't have to walk through to there.
Belief is the strongest metal of them all.
Cool. And then, yeah, we'll have to walk back a little bit. Oh, well, yeah. To get back to the exits. It's a slight downside of areas like these. If you got multiple objectives and you encounter them out of order, then sometimes a little bit of backtracking is in order. But next up, Shavronne's Tower. The layout and design is very reminiscent of the tower map. Though there are also plenty of differences to give this its own unique look and feel. And I already see an exit, so that is rather lovely. So let's take it. So as in the tower map, we simply walk around here. Though we do have to go in the right direction, that actually leads us up. And in an area like this that has mostly some of the wider corridor styles definitely favors me, because it means enemies will be more concentrated, so it is easier to cover them all with my Dark Pact explosions. So far, Dark Pact, we've been able to play with a increased area of effect and a life leech, and only a single concentrated effect. Also, I realized this is no longer an autocast, might as well undo it. But we're not playing with a very high powered, high damage version of Dark Pact, and it's already enough to just clear through things. That's a style I'm gonna probably just stick with until it is no longer viable and I feel a need to switch to a more damage heavy version. But it is one of the advantages, of course, that the skill is inherently pretty strong, which means you are very flexible in the utility support gems that you add to it, instead of being more or less forced to only add damage, more damage multipliers to it and ignore all sorts of utility, because otherwise it simply is not a viable skill. So in that regard, no, on the one hand, I do say the skill is rather powerful, and it could it would not be harmed by nerfing the damage output of the skill, because you could still play with it, you just have to focus a bit more on the damage. But on the other hand, the fact that you don't need to focus on the damage does make it a great utility skill. And as some people in the comments have also remarked, it's also a nice skill to just put as a 1 or 2 link skill in a summoner build. Because if you're already focusing on scaling the minion life, you already have the skeletons in your build anyway. Now, picking it up and running with it, it's just gonna enhance your build. Some lightning strikes from the archers in here. It's a little bit more spastic than it ought to be. Desecrate is limited by dex. Okay, that's okay, because I don't really need the corpses to erase specters. Nor do I really care about the chaos damage that is done by Desecrate, so keeping it at a lower level is not gonna hinder me in any way. Also, closed door, meet summon skeletons, meet Dark Pact. Just to clear whatever is around here. And then murder you. There probably was something off to the side and I stuck to the habit of just walking around the circle. Well played, game, well played. And Haku is the one that caused that. Okay. I'll help you, because yeah, Haku is getting closer and closer to level 5, so it is worth helping Haku. There we are. It's a level 48 area, being a side area of the area above. My level is 51, so I'm still just over leveled a bit. It is one of the side effects of just having to farm a little more, or just farming a little more than I normally do, because paying attention to keeping your gear at least a little bit up to date is much more important than it was. And as such, I'll be more over leveled than I used to. But again, in most of my playthroughs I am pretty over leveled, and some builds it's more than others, but there's rarely a build where I'm under leveled, because I'm just not that much of a speed demon. Okay, it's a pretty long walk here. Let's just hope that it's not going to be a very strictly timed run out, because that might be interesting. Oh, and hello there. Wow! Let's meet my spell totem. Or my spell block via bone offering. And we're gonna leave a totemic mole on the floor. Yay! 3-second timer. I can do it. Now between Flame Dash and the Quicksilver Flask, I don't really need very high movement speed on my boots. It's nice, it's always very nice quality of life improvement to get better movement speed on your boots. But now being a caster and all, and usually having a screen of mobs in front of me, does mean I don't need it as much as, say, a melee build would, or a ranger. But in things like these Haku missions you definitely notice. But still, we have more than enough time. And he is nearly level 5. Wonderful. Also, seriously, is it near the entrance? It's near the entrance. Oh, I didn't miss out on Haku, so there's that. Okay, that's not the way forward. This is. And I see a doorway, which I think is gonna be the doorway. You have enemies or allies cannot die. Good thing is, doesn't apply to you yourself. And you're gone. Is that a Moroi? It's not ornamental enough, is it? Indeed, it's Joffrey's baptism. Increased physical damage, never deal crits. Increased stun on enemies. Okay. Could be interesting for some sort of Earthquaker build. For now, let's empty our pockets. Also, just how many coins do we have? We got 3. Let's hand them in and get some prophecies in return.
Tell your future. They
Well,
flee
the Exile.
from the eyes of Oriath, coated in
They've sacrificed
the ancient rare champion.
hardened armor.
The rings that
Okay, so this is just 20% quality with a single fragment. That's useful against rares and uniques. Slay powerful Val Fallen, who will drop a sacrifice a dawn fragment. Another wealthy exile. This is just one of the most lucrative prophecies, and it is very common. And Visions of the Drowned, an area littered with the drowned. We'll eventually walk into that. But now it is time for a meeting on the rooftop of the prison. Bit bloody here. Hello there.
Not you!
Oh,
On my life and my work, I shall not suffer this humiliation again!
he's moving. Didn't we kill him? Ah, he's a reassembled Brutus. Also, his damage is going down, or his life was going down pretty quickly. Okay, he's got a... Okay, swapping around. Okay. So one of those books is my book. What? Hey, stop calling names, you hag. Just put some skellies around, murder her. She seems to be ready for the next phase. Okay. Shavronne and Brutus united. Still got that reverse get over here skill. It's a way more potent version of Ground Slam. But in the end, it did not help. They were defeated nonetheless. I don't want that.
And so it begins. My ethereal veins now run with dark ambition. Let's turn that trickle into a torrent. Let's harvest ourselves a Grand Inquisitor. Just as Shavronne's spirit chose to return to comfortable climes, Maligaro's essence once again dwells in his very own chamber of sins. Though I hasten to add that Maligaro's sins are not my sins. I prefer transgressions of a more natural order than does he. I'd carry you to Frisia if I could. Yet I expended too much of myself when I snatched you from the jaws of Kitava. You will need to find your own path, as will I. Make the journey, and please survive it. We too have much work left to do.
Okay, so that was Sin, and he only has one thing to say. So we can actually port to town, have a chat with people. Bestel also has something to say.
Good work clearing another path through Axiom Prison. I'm starting to think those stories I've heard about you might be true.
Hey, a steel circlet.
With the road to the Frisian forest clear again, I trekked through to the forests beyond to see if the strangeness we're seeing on the coast is also happening inland. What I saw nearly froze my heart solid. The animals there, poor wretches, overtaken by some sort of parasite. As close as I can reckon, they're like termites, burrowing into flesh and mind instead of wood. If I'm right, there'll be a nest somewhere, and a queen. If you can find it, destroy it. Those parasites aren't something we want to see around here anytime soon.
That's the quest to defeat the puppet mistress.
Stay sharp out there.
Who'd have thought those bleating bastards would go and find religion, eh? Now there's nothing quite so sure to spoil a man's appetite than an ecclesiastical debate come supper time. Yet this goatman god, this Aberath, seems fair determined to mix his morsels with his spiritual enlightenments. To put no finer point on it, when the goatmen find him a soft pink human or two as divine sacrifice, He eats them. Meat, soul, and all. Well, that's what the legends say.
That's what the legends say. Okay. So, Puppet Mistress
Still alive, are we?
and an Aberoth. I'm sure Sin will have something to say about both of those. Yes. The cloven one.
I have another deity in mind who could be persuaded to donate a little essence to your ongoing edification. Aberrath, a deranged old goat with a thirst for human souls, whose cloven hooves now stand astride the old prisoner's road. Have you ever tasted a soul, Beastlayer? No, I imagine not. The poets all speak of sweet souls, bitter souls, enlightened souls, and twisted souls. You know what most of them taste like, really. Regret, with a lingering aftertaste of should have known better.
He's a cheerful one.
A renowned alchemist, eroded by his lust for distilled spirits, and not the alcoholic kind. Aberrath the Scholar King, dancing upon a stage of chemicals and fire. He used his knowledge to burn away the flesh so as to liquidate the life force within, a libation he consumed with both frequency and alacrity. It started with animals, goats specifically, and thus his own cruelty became his curse. The Scholar King became the Cloven One, quaffer of souls. Some say he turned to the dram of man in order to cure himself. I believe his thirst simply grew with his burgeoning immortality. And perhaps he still retains some of his scholarly nature, for he seemed fair determined to share his hard-won wisdom. He took himself a princess, a lovely thing from a local tribe, and 9 months later she gave birth to something rather unlovely. The Fawn, as wild and wicked as the shaggy god himself. Schooled in his father's ways, the Fawn would carry off many more virgins in his time. And thus, the race of goat men found their footing.
Oh, we did manage to defeat the Fawn, because if you remember back in Act 1, that was the one that was guarding Navali. The one that crash landed like a meteor.
The Puppet Mistress was a revered matriarch who nurtured her tribe into greatness through love, peace, and fecundity. That is, until her children were slaughtered by Tukohama's brave warriors. Dissolution and desperation, they do troubling things to the spirit. And given enough time, what one believes, one becomes.
Ryuslatha.
A maggot that festers and writhes in the fetid mud of the wettest lands. Rislatha, the white worm that corrupts the very earth while her heart yearns to replenish her slaughtered brood. Hers was a prolific tribe once, fat with peace and fecund with love. Then Tukohama's fire swept across her sacred land, and her children were butchered by the madness of war. Now the Immortal Mother has one waking thought. She will also ensure that her children are never harmed again. How? By making everyone's children her children.
Also doesn't seem to be someone that we really want to have roaming around in these areas.
Not right now.
And I believe that is the last little bit of lore. So it's gonna be a good way to end the episode with just a little bit of lore to prepare us for what's ahead. So next episode we're gonna go after Aberrath and Rislatha, the Puppet Mistress. So as always, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you again next time. Bye bye.